There is a quiet moment that almost no one talks about. It happens when you sit down, pick up your phone, or open your computer and start looking at the bills. Perhaps your body reacts even before you think. Your chest tightens, your breathing shortens, your mind races, and for a few seconds, it feels as if you are alone in front of numbers that judge your worth. I want you to know that tightness is not weakness, it is humanity. It is the invisible weight of responsibility mixed with fear and sometimes with a guilt you can't quite explain. Perhaps you have silently asked yourself, where did I go wrong? Perhaps you feel shame for not being where you imagined you would be financially. Perhaps you carry a sense of personal failure every time you click pay. This pain is real, and it should not be ignored or ridiculed. The nervous system does not easily distinguish a bill from a threat. For the emotional brain, especially when there is a history of scarcity or insecurity, opening a bill can activate the same alert circuit that triggers in the face of physical danger. The heart races, thought becomes clouded, fear takes control, and when fear takes control, faith feels distant. But before paying any bill today, we are going to do something different. We will not start with the number. We will start with the heart, because the way you position yourself inside changes how you navigate what is outside. And this is not just spirituality, it is also emotional neuroscience. When you slow your breathing and create a moment of awareness before acting, you signal to your brain that you are not in immediate danger. You exit survival mode and enter presence mode. And it is in presence that faith finds space. Psalm 37:25 declares, I have been young and now am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor their children begging for bread. Notice the depth of this. It is not a phrase spoken by someone who has never faced scarcity. It is a declaration shaped by time. It is someone who lived through cycles, saw ups and downs, but recognized an invisible line of care sustaining everything. Perhaps you cannot see this line now. Perhaps everything feels too confusing, yet the promise remains like an ancient whisper. You are not forsaken. And when Psalm 23 says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, it is not teaching denial of reality. It is not saying that bills, challenges, or tight seasons will not exist. It is saying that there is conscious dependence, an acknowledgement that you do not walk alone, that there is direction, that there is care, that there is sufficient provision for every step. The shepherd does not lead the flock into waste, but into sustenance, into what is necessary, into what sustains life. Perhaps you have heard about financial curse, and this may have generated fear within you. But often, what we call a curse is an unresolved emotional cycle. It is anxiety leading to impulsivity. It is fear generating hasty decisions. It is disorganization born from attempts to escape pain. Panic creates more panic. Fear feeds loss of control. And before you know it, a person feels trapped in a pattern that seems spiritual, but is also deeply emotional. And this is where prayer before paying begins to change everything. Not as a magic formula, not as a promise of instant miracle, but as a rupture of panic's dominion. Remember the widow who had only a little oil. Humanly, it was insufficient. It was almost nothing. But when she trusted the guidance she received, the little began to flow. What was stagnant began to multiply, not because fear shouted louder, but because trust was activated. The little, in the right hands, ceases to be a sentence and becomes a seed. Perhaps today you feel you have little money, little margin, little security. Yet little in God's hands is not the end of the story. Now, before touching the next payment, I want you to breathe deeply. Inhale slowly. Feel the air entering. Hold for a few seconds. And exhale slowly. Do it once more. By breathing this way, you're not only calming yourself, you are telling your body, I am safe now. You are telling your soul, I am not alone. You are telling your faith, I choose to trust. Because paying bills can be an act of fear, but it can also become an act of alignment. It can be a moment of despair, or it can be a moment of consecration. The difference is not in the value of the bill. It is in the posture of the heart. And today, before any number, we are repositioning the heart. Today, before any payment, you are remembering who your shepherd is. Today, before any click, you are choosing presence over panic, awareness over guilt, faith over fear. There is an almost imperceptible detail that profoundly shapes your financial life, and it is not in the numbers. It is in the internal state with which you pay each bill. Many people make payments with a silent tension, with a murmuring that no one hears, yet it echoes inside like a constant lament. Outwardly, it is just a click. Inside, it is a heavy sigh, a sense of injustice, a repeated thought, money just goes out, it never remains. And without realizing it, the heart begins to associate responsibility with pain, obligation with punishment, organization with suffering. This is the invisible error, turning the act of fulfilling duties into a spiritual burden. Psalm 24:1 declares firmly, yet gently at the same time, the earth is the Lord's, and everything in it. This means that everything, absolutely everything, belongs to God, including the resources that pass through your hands today. When you acknowledge this, something reorganizes within you. You stop feeling solely responsible for sustaining the universe. You stop carrying the world on your shoulders. You begin to see yourself as a steward, not as someone who must control everything alone. Notice the emotional difference between these two attitudes. The first generates constant anxiety. The second generates reverence and awareness. When the fear of lack dominates your thoughts, the brain enters a continuous state of alert, and continuous alertness reduces your ability to make wise decisions. Neuroscience shows that under prolonged stress, the rational part of the brain loses efficiency, and the emotional part takes command. It is in this state that hasty decisions, impulsive purchases, and financial promises made to relieve momentary pain arise. Fear tries to solve fear, and so the cycle repeats. But there is a simple way to interrupt this pattern. Before making any payment, no matter the amount, take an intentional pause. Do not jump directly into automatic action. Stop. Breathe. Place your hand on your chest if you wish, and say quietly, with sincerity, Lord, thank you for the resources being used now. Even if limited, they came from you. It may seem small, but it is not small. This prayer creates a profound internal shift. It moves you from a place of absolute scarcity to a place of recognition, and recognition reorganizes the mind. When you give thanks, the brain activates areas related to security and connection. You exit threat mode and enter trust mode, and trust generates more conscious decisions. Paying a bill, when seen clearly, is not just losing money. It is completing a cycle. It is honoring a commitment. It is keeping your word. It is sustaining the structure of your life. Think of it as planting a seed. When you plant, the seed disappears from your hand, but it is not destroyed. It is positioned to generate continuity. Similarly, the money that goes out to fulfill a responsibility is not merely a loss. It is maintaining your integrity. Perhaps you have never thought this way. Perhaps you have always felt that paying meant diminishing. But what if paying is also a sign that you are participating in the flow, that you are active, that you are taking ownership of your life? It is not about romanticizing difficulties. It is about changing your internal posture toward them. Today, when you make a payment, observe your thoughts. Notice if there is resentment. Notice if there is silent murmuring. And if there is, do not blame yourself. Simply acknowledge it. Bring light to what was automatic. And consciously choose another posture. Choose to pay with presence. Choose to pay with gratitude. Choose to pay as someone who understands that they are managing something that ultimately belongs to the Lord. Because when you pay with fear, fear strengthens. But when you pay with awareness, awareness grows. When you pay with resentment, scarcity emotionally takes root. But when you pay with gratitude, you internally affirm, I received enough to complete this step, and this affirmation, repeated month after month, transforms not only your finances, but also the way you perceive yourself in relation to them. There is a silent division that many people carry without realizing it. They trust God for their health, for their family, for spiritual protection, but when it comes to money, they enter the battlefield alone, as if faith and finances could not occupy the same space, as if God were present only in the sacred areas, but absent from spreadsheets, contracts, goals, and debts. This separation creates an unnecessary burden, because when you isolate your financial life from your faith, you also isolate your source of guidance. Psalm 23 does not say that the Lord is a shepherd only for the soul in moments of prayer. It says, the Lord is my shepherd. A shepherd guides. A shepherd directs. A shepherd protects. A shepherd leads to green pastures, and green pastures do not represent uncontrolled excess. They represent sufficient provision, balanced sustenance, continuous security. Perhaps, deep down, you have associated divine provision with immediate and visible abundance. But divine provision is, above all, secure guidance. It is knowing when to advance and when to wait. It is discerning what is a real need and what is an impulse disguised as urgency. It is learning to walk without comparing your path to that of others. When you organize your finances with prayer, something changes inside you. It is not about spiritualizing numbers. It is about bringing awareness to every decision. Before buying, before taking on a new commitment, before splitting a payment that seems harmless, try asking silently, Lord, is this a need or an impulse? Does this build my stability or merely relieve a momentary anxiety? This pause changes the course of many stories. Neuroscience explains that impulses often arise from a desire for emotional regulation. We buy to feel control, to feel reward, to anesthetize frustration. But when you insert prayer and reflection into this space, you create a gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap exists freedom. Freedom to choose consciously. Freedom to act aligned, not reactive. Remember David before Goliath. He did not wear Saul's armor, because it did not fit him. He chose to use what was already in his hands. This image is deeply financial. Many times, debt arises from trying to wear someone else's armor, a lifestyle that does not correspond to your current reality, a constant comparison that erodes inner peace. You do not need anyone else's armor. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. You need alignment, coherence between what you earn, what you spend, and what you believe. When the Lord is your shepherd, also in your financial life, you learn that you do not need to chase everything recklessly. You learn that direction is more important than speed. You learn that stability is worth more than appearance. You learn that consistency is worth more than euphoria. Perhaps today, your situation is still not what you desire, but this does not mean abandonment. It means process, and process requires discipline, awareness, and faith applied in daily practice. Breathe for a moment and imagine your financial life being guided calmly, without panic, without comparison, without decisions made on the impulse of emotion. Imagine yourself organizing your resources with serenity, knowing that every step is being guided. Feel this image in your body. Feel how your shoulders relax when you realize that you're not alone on this path. The Lord is my shepherd. Also, when you open the spreadsheet. Also, when you calculate expenses. Also, when you decide to say no to something that could create more pressure later. Also, when you choose to wait. Faith does not replace responsibility. Faith strengthens responsibility. Faith does not ignore numbers. Faith illuminates numbers. Faith does not eliminate effort. Faith gives meaning to effort. And when you begin to integrate these dimensions, spirituality and practice, prayer and organization, trust and discipline, something harmonizes within you. Anxiety decreases. Clarity increases. Guilt loses power. And little by little, your financial life ceases to be a territory of fear and becomes a field of learning, growth, and maturity. God is not distant from your economic reality. He walks with you in it. He guides your choices. He strengthens your mind. He sustains your heart. And the more you allow this integration, the more you will realize that provision is not just what enters your account. It is also the wisdom that prevents it from being emptied without awareness. There is a weight that is often greater than the debt itself. It is guilt. It settles silently, like an inner voice that repeats, "If I had done things differently, if I had thought better, if I were more organized." And little by little, this voice stops being just a thought and becomes identity. The person no longer says, "I made a mistake." They begin to feel, "I am a mistake." If this has ever passed through your heart, I want you to take a deep breath now, because making mistakes in financial decisions does not define your worth. It only defines that you are human, learning, growing, and going through phases. Many financial choices are made in moments of emotional fragility, purchases made to relieve sadness, commitments taken to maintain an image, loans taken in desperation. The brain, when in pain, seeks immediate relief. This is not evil. It is a survival mechanism. But when the moment passes, the consequence remains, and along with it comes shame. Psalm 32 speaks about confessing and being forgiven. It describes the weight of keeping mistakes in silence and the relief that arises when they are brought into the light. Liberation begins when you stop internally running from what happened. When you look at your financial history with honesty, not dramatizing, but also not denying it. Constant guilt does not pay debts. It paralyzes, it consumes mental energy, it weakens self-esteem, and a weakened mind makes even worse decisions. Do you see the cycle? Guilt generates discouragement. Discouragement generates neglect. Neglect generates more problems, and the heart feels trapped. But repentance is different from guilt. Guilt says, "You are no good." Repentance says, "You can do differently from now on." Guilt imprisons. Repentance directs. Before paying an overdue bill, before reorganizing something that got out of control, close your eyes for a few moments and pray sincerely, "Father, I acknowledge my thoughtless choices. I no longer want to run from them. I receive your forgiveness, and today I commit to renewed discipline." Feel the weight of these words. Acknowledging is not humiliation, it is liberation. When you take responsibility, you reclaim the power to change. Overdue bills are like cracked walls. If you ignore the fissure, it grows. But when you face the crack and begin to repair it, even slowly, the structure strengthens. It may take time, it may require adjustments, it may demand sacrifices, but every small conscious action is a new brick firmly placed. Perhaps you're carrying a debt that feels too large. Perhaps you feel behind in life. But remember, God does not work with permanent condemnation. He works with progressive restoration. He does not look at you and see only negative numbers. He sees potential for growth, the capacity to learn, the strength to rebuild. Discipline born from fear is fragile. Discipline born from awareness is solid. When you choose to change, not out of dread, but out of understanding, your transformation becomes sustainable. So, if today you need to pay something that brings memories of mistakes, do not let shame lead this moment. You lead it with serenity, with responsibility, with faith applied in practice. You are not your financial past. You are the person who decides today to take a different step. And every different step, no matter how small, weakens the old cycle and strengthens a new path. Allow yourself to restart, not naively, but consciously, with open eyes, a humble heart, and a mind willing to learn. Because this is how restoration begins, not with instant perfection, but with firm and compassionate decision. When financial pressure rises, the first thing that usually disappears is gratitude. The mind fixates on what is missing, on what hasn't arrived yet, on what seems insufficient, and little by little, the heart enters a mode of permanent scarcity, even if there is still provision for today. Perhaps you know this feeling. You pay a bill, and instead of feeling relief for having met that responsibility, you feel only fear of the next due date. This internal state is exhausting. It keeps the body in constant tension. The brain interprets the scenario as a continuous threat, and living this way tires the soul. But there is a spiritual and emotional secret that transforms this experience: conscious gratitude in the midst of pressure. Psalm 34:10 declares that those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. Seeking is not just asking for more. Seeking is recognizing what has already been sustained up to this point. It is looking back and noticing that, despite yesterday's fears, you have made it through. Despite sleepless nights, you have continued. Despite bills that seemed impossible, something happened and you arrived at this day. How many times did you think you wouldn't make it? How many times did you feel it would be the end? And yet, here you are, breathing, fighting, trying again. The common mistake is to live projected exclusively on what has not yet manifested. The mind says, when I earn more, when I pay everything off, when money is left over, then I will be grateful. But this logic imprisons, because gratitude does not arise from visible abundance. It arises from the awareness that we have not been abandoned along the way. Gratitude does not deny difficulty. It prevents difficulty from becoming sovereign. When you pay a bill, try saying softly, even as a whisper, Lord, you have been my sustenance until now. Do not say it automatically. Say it with feeling. Let the words descend into your chest. Allow them to touch your memory. Remember small provisions, unexpected opportunities, quiet help, doors that opened when you least expected. The repetition of this practice reorganizes your inner world. Neuroscience shows that gratitude activates brain circuits connected to safety, connection, and hope. When you give thanks, your brain reduces the exclusive focus on threat and expands the perception of resources. You begin to see possibilities where before you saw only risk. In the desert, manna was daily. It could not be accumulated. It could not be stored forever. It was enough for that day. And this taught constant dependence. It taught step-by-step trust. Perhaps your financial life today follows a similar model. There is no abundant surplus, but there is enough for today. And enough for today is care. Perhaps you desire greater stability, and that is legitimate. But while you are building that stability, do not let anxiety steal the perception of what is already working. Do you pay rent? That means there is a roof. Do you pay for electricity? That means there is light. Do you pay for internet? That means there is connection. Each bill paid reveals that something is being sustained. Change the internal question. Instead of asking, why do I always have to pay? Try asking, what is being kept standing through this payment? This shift may seem simple, but it changes the way your brain interprets reality. Gratitude is an emotional discipline, and every discipline requires repeated practice. At first, it may feel strange. It may feel forced. But over time, the heart begins to respond. Tension decreases. Breathing deepens. Fear loses intensity. It is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about affirming, with serenity, up to this point, I have been sustained. And this affirmation creates a solid internal foundation to continue building. Now, after everything we have reflected on, I want to invite you to completely transform the way you view this moment of paying bills, not as a ritual of stress, but as a ritual of alignment. Before organizing your finances, recite Psalm 23 slowly, not as an automatic repetition, but as someone declaring a covering over their own home. The Lord is my shepherd. Feel the meaning of each word. Shepherd guides. Shepherd protects. Shepherd provides. Let this truth descend from the mind into the heart. Then, declare Psalm 37-25 as a living promise. You are not forsaken. Your story is not floating in emptiness. There is faithfulness sustaining your path, even when you do not see all the details. Breaking financial curses is not about performing a dramatic act. It is about breaking internal cycles of fear, loss of control, and disbelief. It is choosing not to act impulsively out of anxiety. It is deciding that every resource that passes through your hands will be handled with awareness, responsibility, and prayer. Now pray with me calmly, feeling each phrase. Lord, I consecrate every resource that passes through my hands. Give me wisdom to manage. Give me discipline to organize. Give me confidence not to act out of fear. Guard my home from emotional and financial scarcity. Teach me to live with balance. Let each payment be an act of faith, not panic. Let each financial decision reflect alignment, not anxiety. Guide my steps toward stability. Breathe deeply as these words resonate within you. Feel your shoulders relax. Feel your heart slow down. Notice that this moment is not just about numbers. It is about identity. It is about maturity. It is about persevering trust. Financial advancement does not arise merely from larger sums. It arises from an aligned heart, from firm responsibility, from conscious decisions repeated over time, from faith applied in daily practice. And I leave you with a question to hold in silence, perhaps as you pay your next bill. If, from today, every payment were treated as an act of conscious faith rather than a reminder of fear, who would you become over the coming months? Remain in this reflection. Remain in this presence. You are not alone. There is care sustaining you now. Remain for a few more moments in this state of presence. Do not close this moment in haste. Let the prayer continue to resonate within you like a gentle vibration that reorganizes not only your thoughts, but also your posture toward life. Perhaps, over the years, you have associated money with tension. Perhaps each due date has become an emotional trigger. But from today, you can begin to build a new internal memory. A memory in which paying is not synonymous with threat, but with conscious responsibility. Where organizing is not punishment, but care. Where discipline is not cold rigidity, but love applied to your own story. Your brain learns through repetition. Your heart does too. Every time you choose to breathe before paying, every time you give thanks before transferring, every time you pray before deciding, you are creating new internal connections. You are teaching your mind that it is possible to handle finances without entering panic. You are teaching your nervous system that responsibility does not have to mean despair. This is transformation, silent, progressive, real. Perhaps nothing changes immediately in your account balance, but something begins to change within you. And when the inner self reorganizes, external decisions begin to reflect this new awareness. You begin to observe more, plan better, say no with greater firmness, wait with more patience, act with more clarity, and this builds stability. Remember, God is not distant from your daily effort. He is present when you work. He is present when you choose not to spend impulsively. He is present when you face an old debt with courage. He is present when you decide to learn something new about financial organization. He does not watch from afar. He walks alongside. Perhaps you still feel fear at times. That does not mean a lack of faith. It means you are human. But now, you have a new practice, a new posture, a new ritual. Before paying, you pray. Before deciding, you breathe. Before panicking, you remember, the Lord is my shepherd. Repeat this internally one more time. The Lord is my shepherd. Let this phrase descend like a balm, not as magic, but as alignment. And as you go about your routine, I want you to hold this truth. Your financial life is not a cursed field. It is a territory in maturation. It is a space where you are learning balance, responsibility, awareness, and practical faith. You are not behind. You are in process. You are not abandoned. You are being guided. You are not condemned to repeat cycles. You can interrupt them with small, consistent, and present choices. Now, when you finish this video and go to handle your bills, do so calmly, without rush, without harsh self-criticism, with firmness and compassion at the same time. And if at any moment anxiety tries to return, simply breathe and say, I am not alone. I am being guided. May each payment become a reminder of maturity. May each decision become a step toward stability. May each prayer strengthen your mind and calm your heart. And when you look back in a few months, may you realize that true progress began on the day you decided to reposition your heart before paying. Remain in peace. Remain in awareness. Remain in practical faith. You are being cared for now. Stay here a little longer. Do not turn this reflection into something rushed. Allow it to become part of you, because what we are building is not just a different way of paying bills. It is a different way of existing in the face of life's responsibilities. Perhaps you have spent years reacting automatically. A bill arrives, tension rises. A deadline approaches, anxiety increases. Money comes in, fear of losing it appears. This cycle creates a constant state of alert, and the body pays the price. The mind pays the price. Faith pays the price. But now, you're learning something deeper. Presence before action. Awareness before decision. Prayer before movement. This may seem simple, but it is revolutionary. When you choose to breathe before paying, you are teaching your brain that there is no predator in the room. When you give thanks before transferring, you are training your mind to notice provision, not just loss. When you consecrate your resources in prayer, you are reminding your soul that ultimate sustenance does not come solely from your effort, but from the combination of responsible work and divine guidance. This balance changes everything. You begin to notice small adjustments happening naturally. Perhaps you start tracking your expenses more carefully. Perhaps you feel less impulse to buy something just to soothe an emotion. Perhaps you choose to build a small reserve, even if it takes time. These decisions do not arise from fear. They arise from maturity. And maturity is the fruit of repeated awareness. Practical faith does not ignore spreadsheets. It illuminates spreadsheets. Practical faith does not eliminate bills. It transforms the way you approach them. Practical faith does not promise instant wealth. It builds inner stability that sustains any phase, even the tightest ones. If at any point you stumble, do not return to old guilt. Return to awareness. If anxiety arises, do not condemn yourself. Breathe again. Repeat the process. Transformation is not made of perfection. It is made of constant return to alignment. And remember something essential. You are greater than your current financial phase. Your value does not fluctuate with your account balance. Your dignity does not diminish because of a debt. Your identity is not tied to numbers. You are someone in construction, someone learning, someone being shaped in responsibility, patience, and trust. As you continue this journey, keep this simple ritual alive. Before paying, pray. Before deciding, breathe. Before panicking, remember who guides your steps. Say again, within yourself, "The Lord is my shepherd," not as an escape from reality, but as a foundation to face it, and then move forward. With serenity, with firmness, with discipline, with faith applied to everyday life, May your home be covered with peace. May your mind be guarded from excessive anxiety. May your heart be strengthened in trust. And may each financial step, no matter how small, be a movement toward stability built with awareness and perseverance. You are not alone on this path. There is presence, there is guidance, there is care right now. Allow this truth to settle even deeper within you, because real change doesn't happen when we hear something beautiful. It happens when we decide to live according to what we hear, and you are being invited to live in a more conscious, more aligned, more serene way regarding your finances. Perhaps after this video ends, the external reality will remain the same. The amounts will not have disappeared. Responsibilities will still exist, but something may be different inside. And it is this inside that sustains the outside. Imagine how it will be in a few months if you maintain this simple and profound ritual. Every time a bill arrives, instead of feeling the immediate shock of anxiety, you pause. Instead of murmuring, you give thanks for what is being kept standing. Instead of condemning yourself for the past, you reaffirm your commitment to renewed discipline. Instead of acting on impulse, you ask for guidance. This repetition creates a new pattern, and patterns build destinies. Practical spirituality is not about living in denial of financial reality. It is about navigating this reality with heightened awareness. It is about allowing your faith to influence your concrete decisions. It is about integrating heart and mind, prayer and planning, trust and responsibility. If on any day fear returns strongly, do not interpret it as failure. Simply acknowledge, I am anxious. Place your hand on your chest, breathe deeply, and repeat, I am being guided. I am not alone. This simple gesture regulates your nervous system. It sends a signal of safety to your brain. And from safety, you make better decisions. You do not need to solve your entire financial life today. You only need to take the next step with awareness, a payment made with gratitude, a choice made with discernment, a renunciation made with purpose, an organization done with calm. Small steps, repeated, consistent. The Lord is your shepherd even in spreadsheets, even in goals, even in limitations, even in rebuilding. He does not withdraw when money is involved. He desires to participate in your maturity in this area. And perhaps true financial progress begins when fear ceases to be your primary advisor, when guilt ceases to define your identity, when haste stops commanding your decisions, when awareness takes the place of automatic reaction. Before concluding, close your eyes for a moment. Visualize your home enveloped in peace. Visualize your bills being managed with serenity. Visualize yourself making firm but calm decisions. Feel this scene in your body. Feel stability beginning within before it manifests outside. Now, carry this question with you, not to answer quickly, but to meditate on in the days ahead. Who are you becoming each time you choose to pay with faith instead of fear? Keep this in your heart. Continue practicing. Continue breathing. Continue praying before acting. You are in process. You are learning. You are maturing. And there is a presence caring for you now, while you work, while you organize, while you build. Remain in peace. Remain in awareness. Remain in trust.